Good evening. So today we're going to talk about day 7 and 8. Saturday we still had classes and still were working on a lot of different things. And then we had more social events throughout the rest of the weekend. So I thought it would be best to combine everything up into one video. Let's start with the negotiation part. These cases are fun because across all the participants, we have the same case, but we have different roles. So you can easily find your similar role or someone else's role as you talk with different participants and see what they did differently. In each of these cases and roles, you see what the person is going for with their negotiation and kind of has a point value associated with it. So like a higher salary, arguing a higher salary will give you more points, or arguing away equity for yourself gets you more points, or losing out on some of those things costs you points. And so you're trying to reach this point where you have the highest point total. It makes a lot of sense and it's quickly transferable. And so we had the showing of how we all did. And for my team, it was interesting because we had some very high point totals for, not for me, but for the person who is arguing against me. So that means that the other person I was negotiating with did a better job at getting the concessions they wanted than I did at getting mine. And I think that's interesting because it helps me see where I could have done better. And one of the big things for me is having a good understanding of where my anchoring point is and the leverage that I have, and really starting off from a higher position. I think all the very successful people in this exercise did that, and it really helped them move along. However, one of the interesting parts is, although I didn't perform that well, the trust score at the end of it, where we all rated if we would work again with that person, our team was very high, which is funny for two reasons. One, because I think I would have fired the other person really quickly after the negotiation. It was just not part of the exercise. But it looked like they trusted me in doing the best thing and working with me. So it was very, very interesting how that all played out. And I think it was a great exercise because it helps show that for myself, I really need to go in to negotiations with a lot of evidence backing me up and be very aware of starting at things that even above what I may even consider fair, so that I can get the kind of the best deal possible from a negotiation. The other case was interesting because it was more about this tension between how to grow this company out, where many people believe the technology was obsolete. And I think in many ways it missed some of the point, where the company was kind of trying to create a certain vision. And because it was more of an analog technology and not digital, they're thinking, hey, how can we get more digital? And even some of the evidence provided was, hey, they need to move into digital, otherwise they're going to fail. And I think it missed the point, where sometimes we forget, one, that if it's a luxury brand, you don't want to make it digital. You want to bring more value to the customer. Being more digital doesn't necessarily do that. It's not just kind of this, if this, then absolutely this. And so my example would be like if you had like Prada shoes, I think that's a shoe brand, and suddenly you had something to count steps because now it's digital and it measures something like that. I don't think that's value add. That would probably detract from the value. In the same way, I felt that was the same thing was happening in company. If you were looking for something else, you would be just looking at a completely different company altogether if you think the company was a luxury brand. But also, I think there is something that's missed in the kind of the analog version of these things. I think we forget sometimes when we're trying to do something, being slowed down, having some friction is actually helpful because it helps you form ideas and do some different things. And more importantly, if you have something where you store all of your stuff, where all of your notes are taken and nothing is filtered out, it actually becomes a lot worse. And if you bear with me for a second, perhaps if you're taking notes, you shouldn't have notes of every single word the professor says. I don't think anyone does this. I think a lot of people write very good notes of kind of what the professor's saying and kind of read between the lines. But what makes them really effective is then when they're gone back and people highlight over them. And you keep something along those lines. So in these cases, it's not that you remember everything for all time that is searchable, but rather that it is something that you can look at and digest, and then at some point even forget. We lose track, I think, of that part of the importance of forgetting some things and the cost of trying to retain every single piece of knowledge. A good example of this is with machine learning, where you have accuracy up to a certain level with pictures, or if you're identifying pictures or something. You need something called drop-off, which is basically forgetting to be in there. If you do not have drop-off, if you don't have this ability for the algorithm to forget, you actually get less accurate and much slower, and I think people lose track of that. Then at the end of the day, you're just tagging on digital, making people less productive, and expecting to get a premium for that product. So the funny thing this weekend was we had a boat party where we were supposed to be dressed wearing white clothing. Unfortunately, I don't have any white clothing, and I was unable to get any while I was here. Been busy with all these other things. And I was pushed up against the decision, which is very high schoolish, of, hey, my goal is to go meet more people and mingle and understand all these things, but I also need to fit in. And I don't fit in with the only thing I'm wearing as a blue shirt, where everyone else is wearing white shirts and white dresses. So it was weird because of, going back to this very high schoolish mentality of being self-conscious about what I'm wearing and almost wanting to not even go just because I didn't have the right colored shirt. So I went anyway. It was good. I was able to talk with a bunch of people. I mean, a lot of things, but it was really weird again that I almost didn't go just because my shirt wasn't the right color. And I think that's an important thing to kind of remember as I feel uncomfortable, is this just a shirt color moment where it doesn't matter at all, but it seems to matter in my head. So I think that's a lesson to take with me as I continue to look around at all these different experiences that I'm trying to get into, all these risks that I'm taking. Before I leave, I do want to point out there is another veteran, Nick Tran, who is also from Houston. Great guy. He's also starting to do a few videos, it looks like. I'd ask that you go take a look at some of those as well. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.